There was also change in Lansing this year. It was a pretty competitive election season. The governor's race was tight. There's big turnover in the state House and Senate thanks to term limits. So come January, we'll still have a Republican-dominated legislature, but a lot of new faces with new perspectives. The governor will have the next 4 years to further his agenda of fixing the roads, early childhood education, and continuing the recovery of Michigan's economy. The day after the election, the governor stopped by to talk about some of his goals in his second term.
You will come back with a legislature that's perhaps more conservative than the one that's outgoing. How do you keep them on your agenda, focused on economic development and job creation and training and skills and education, and away from the issues that divide Michigan?
Yeah, well, there's larger majorities. I'm not sure how much more conservative or not, but there are larger majorities for the Republican Party. What I would say is we found great common ground issues over the last 4 years on economic issues in particular, in terms of finding ways to work together. So I want to continue that path, and again, that's why I want to be proactive in recommending an agenda. That's transportation funding we've talked about. Career tech education, I don't think anyone argues with that I can find to say this is a huge opportunity for us to improve our state. Education, I think everyone believes in education. Then it becomes a case of, how do you best do that? That's why I want to focus in on the third grade reading issue, dual enrollment, some of these other innovative ways to do that, and I think there's strong support there.
A large part of the campaign was focused on the economy here in Michigan and people, if they haven't felt the upturn in the economy or the slow recovery of the state. And people still, the unemployment numbers are high in the state of Michigan. What do you have in store for the next 4 years to tackle that?
Yeah, well, first of all, unemployment's higher than the national average, but we've made a huge comeback. I mean, I've said the jobs number a lot, but to put that in perspective, we're number 5 in the number of private sector jobs created in the United States in the last 4 years. We were projected to be at the bottom. In terms of growth rate, we're 13th fastest in terms of a percentage rate. That's top tier performance. So in terms of creating jobs, it's just we started farther in the hole than anybody else. But I want us to be improved. And this is the career tech ed jobs. That's where the big ones, these skilled trades jobs. If you go to mitalent.org, you'll see about 90,000 open jobs in Michigan. Many of these are good, well-paying jobs. So that's where we need to create this pipeline of apprenticeship programs. The Matt Squared program that I've created is working great, but it's in the dozens of people. We need to ramp those up to thousands of people and create these partnerships around the state. And these are all doable things that are more common sense than anything else, and actually getting people, parents and kids, to really look at career choices in a better way, that there is this second track of great well-paying jobs for the skilled trades.
A lot of my Democratic friends are pretty despondent about your first 4 years and the fact that you won
Particularly
the
this
second
morning,
4
right?
years, especially this morning. It's a pretty bitter loss. But I mean, they point to some specific things, right to work, tighter abortion restrictions, the loss of same-sex partner benefits. There's been a litany of things that seem to have changed the character of Michigan over the last 4 years. What would you say to those people about why they should be hopeful at all about you having another 4 years in the governor's office?
Yeah, well, right to work is good. I view that as actually standing up for Michiganders. I mean, we've been through this discussion before.
We have.
It was really an environment created by organized labor that made a divisive environment. So, again, that's done. And look at this last election. Did you see right to work being an issue?
It wasn't.
It
No,
wasn't. It was not an issue. So that one, and then in terms of some of the other things you mentioned, abortion, again, I'm a pro-life person, but the changes were not dramatic in terms of, they were incremental and I think well-placed in terms of some of the safety issues, in terms of being there. So those are the kind of things that you can look at and say, there's a lot of good things to work on. Let's focus on the positives of our urban areas in terms of our cities bringing them back. Let's talk about unemployment and how we can help the structurally unemployed get work. Healthy Michigan, I think we've done a lot for people in need in this state. Healthy Michigan is a huge success.
It is.
But we don't get to talk about other things. I mean, foster care. The adoption rate is up 25 percentage points in the state of Michigan. That's awesome, but it's still not 100%.
But you mentioned...
So this has got to be the last question, Nolan. Go ahead.
You mentioned the Human Services Department, adoptions, what have you. Maura Corrigan's done a terrific job of turning that place around, but she's leaving. How much of your current administration do you anticipate will follow you into a second term, or do you anticipate doing wholesale replacements?
No, not wholesale at all. I mean, we've had a couple people announce, Jim Haveman, Mark Corrigan, they're awesome. But this was just a natural transition. If you look at many of our folks, when they first joined me, they were expecting to probably be there less than 4 years. To be open with you, this is the greatest team I've ever worked with, and folks are fired up to keep going. So there'll be some normal transition, but the good part is we build a strong team and bench to go with them. And they're not getting away. They all want to help on projects.